Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanisms in Star Trek missions, which I got to play just the other day. Here's a sample hand. I did have Jean-Luc Picard, and also had Spock in my hand. Had some. I don't know a ton about Star Trek. I'm a little bit more of a Star Wars guy, but I did recognize a lot of the little, not the little characters, but the major characters in this world. Star Trek Missions is a new version of one of my favorite games, Fantasy Realms. So in Fantasy Realms, you start off with a random hand of cards, and over the course of the game, you get rid of some cards, you gain more cards, and your score is your final hand of cards. A really simple concept, really satisfying. You build a lot of combos where one card might score off another as well. That's the concept. There are a few twists in Star Trek Missions, and I'll talk about two of them, because one of them, if you've followed reviews of this game, you might have heard about, and I want to comment on that. But my favorite mechanism, I think, in the game is that there are two different decks. There are the deck of, I don't know, it's not just characters, it's a variety of things, but it's all the things in the game except for missions, and then there's a mission deck. You start off with 2 missions and 5 characters, and it's essentially you're playing an episode of Star Trek. Where by the end of the game, you need to at least have 1 mission in your hand, because that's the major plot line of the episode. And I really like this system. I like this system that the cards are built a little bit differently. You can see how the mission cards are structured a little bit differently. They don't have the same icons as the other cards because they have a very specific goal. They want you to accomplish a very specific goal, and it adds a little bit of theme to the game. Like, this is the thing that you are doing. You are trying to destroy the Borg, if that's a thing in Star Trek. And then the mission will give you specific cards that you need to gather that you get points off of if you accomplish that goal. And I like that system, that not only are there 2 decks, but also you're controlling which deck you want to draw from, and there are 2 different discard piles as well. And so you can always, instead of gaining a card from the top of the deck, you can gain a card from one of the discard piles instead. It's a clever system. I think it's a good balance here too, because if you have too many decks of cards, then it adds to setup. You're shuffling a lot of cards. You're sorting out a lot of different cards at the end of the game, but 2 isn't bad at all. So I think 2 is a nice number to add to this. I've heard that the latest version of Fantasy Realms Remix, which is Marvel themed, also has 2 decks. So clearly the designer liked that system and wanted to explore it further. The somewhat controversial thing about this game is that there are no core values on the card. So in Fantasy Realms, you can always look at the top left of the card, and it might have a core value ranging from 0 to even 40. I think they go up pretty high. So a pretty big range of numbers where that gives you a core value of points that card can earn. Star Trek Missions doesn't have that. And I thought I would miss it a lot, and I missed it a little bit. It's helpful, like, especially when you're learning a game, you're like, okay, well, clearly the value 30 card is better than the value 3 card, and so I'll try to make this value 30 card, which might have some other stipulations. I'll try to make that happen. Instead, though, for the most part, like the thing that they added. They added some symbols here that show, like, the type of card they are, the type of, if they're sentient or sapient, what type of creature they are. So there are some humans here, and then what allegiance they have. These are some Federation characters here. And many of the cards look at those icons. They'll say, okay, gain 5 points for every Federation card that you have in hand. I like the addition of these icons. However, they were a little confusing throughout the game, because you might have a card where in the text it says, look for every card that you get 5 points. I'll use this example. You get 5 points for every Federation card you have. And in the text, it'll show that icon. Here, let's see if I have an example. Okay, yeah, here's an example actually for Archaeologist. This card says 7 points for each other Archaeologist, and they show the symbol for Archaeologist. And they do this so you can look up to the card to see where you'll find the word Archaeologist. However, it's easy, I think, for our brains to only see this colorful icon here, and so you're looking for that icon instead of the word. So that I found a little confusing, where I found myself looking for the icon, but a lot of cards have the icon rather than just the word itself. And I think this is why I'll really enjoy Marvel Remix, because they have the icons, but they don't have a secondary subcategory under the icons that you also have to look at. You're just looking for the icons. But I didn't miss the core values all that much, because I thought this was a clever system to add to it. Star Trek missions, had fun with it. I like this core mechanism of the 2 decks, and I look forward to trying Marvel Remix when I get the chance. Let me know what you think. There are now essentially 4 different versions of Fantasy Realms. There's this version, there's Fantasy Realms, there's Marvel Remix, and there's our game Red Rising, which has nothing to do with this brand, but uses the same core mechanism in a different way. Let me know what you think of those different games in the comments below. Thanks.